I hadn't wanted a party. I said that more than once, lightly, the way people do when they're trying not to offend anyone. A quiet dinner would have been fine. A phone call even. But my brother insisted. "You've done so much for everyone," he said. "Let us do something for you." That should have been the first warning. The night of my birthday, the house looked the way it always does when I allow myself to be talked into hosting clean without being stiff. Candles lit but not theatrical, the pool lights glowing softly in the background. Nothing extravagant, just careful. My nephew arrived already buzzing with energy that didn't quite fit the room. He's 21, old enough to know better, young enough to believe consequences are negotiable. He hovered near his father most of the night, glancing at him before laughing, before speaking, before doing anything that might draw attention. My brother's jokes were sharper than usual, small barbs disguised as humor, comments about hold money, about how lucky some people are, about how generosity can make people soft. Each one landed with a pause afterward, like he was checking whether I'd react. I didn't. The cake came out after dinner. Simple. Chocolate. I remember thinking absurdly that it looked smaller than I'd imagined. The kind of thought that happens when your mind is already bracing for something you haven't named yet. I was thanking everyone, halfway through a sentence about how I appreciated them coming, when my nephew picked up the cake. At first, I thought it was a joke, some clumsy attempt at humor. Then he walked, deliberately, to the edge of the pool and threw it in. The splash was louder than anyone's laughter. There was a second, just one, where no one spoke. Then a burst of giggles from someone near the back. Nervous, scattered. My nephew turned, grinning, and said it, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Dad, I did what you wanted." The room went very still. I didn't look at my nephew. I looked at my brother. He didn't meet my eyes. He smiled instead, a thin, dismissive curve of his mouth, like the moment had already been filed away as nothing. That was when something in me shut off, not anger, not hurt. A switch. Clean. Final, everyone needs to leave. I said, my voice surprised even me. Calm, level. Not raised. People hesitated, confused. My brother laughed. "Come on." He said it was a joke. I said, "Leave." This time I looked at him. Really looked. He saw it then. The laughter died halfway through his breath. Guests gathered their coats awkwardly. Someone murmured an apology that didn't know who it was for. Within 10 minutes, the house was empty except for the three of us. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I told my nephew to go wait in the car. He opened his mouth, then closed it when his father gave a sharp nod. When the door shut behind them, the house felt cavernous. The pool lights reflected off the water, distorted by frosting and broken cake pieces drifting on the surface. I stood there for a long time. The betrayal wasn't the cake. It wasn't even the insult. It was the instruction. The knowledge that humiliation had been planned, approved, delegated. Loyalty taught as cruelty. That night, I sat at my desk and opened the folder I rarely touched anymore. The family trust had been created years earlier, after my parents died. I was named primary trustee, not because I was the oldest, but because I was responsible. That word again. My brother had access, not control. He received distributions. His children benefited indirectly. It had worked because I believed we were aligned. I logged in, reviewed permissions, followed the process exactly as written. By midnight, my brother's access was suspended pending review. Clean, legal, temporary on paper, but decisive in practice. I slept better than I expected. He called the next morning laughing, as if the night before had been a misunderstanding that could be smoothed over with familiarity. "You really went nuclear over a cake," he said. "I went clear," I replied. "Oh, please," he said. "You'll cool off. You always do." That's when I did the second thing. I'd been avoiding it for years because it felt too final, because it would change how the family functioned in ways that couldn't be undone. But avoidance isn't the same as mercy, and patience isn't the same as loyalty. I called the trust's legal counsel and requested an emergency review. I cited cause, not the party, not the insult, but a documented pattern of misuse, entitlement, and behavior that jeopardized the trust's stated purpose. I forwarded emails, notes, records I'd kept and hoped I'd never need. Authority doesn't rush, but it does respond. By the end of the week, a formal decision was issued. My brother wasn't just suspended. He was removed from any advisory role. His distributions were restructured. Conditions added. Oversight increased. When I told him, he didn't laugh. He went quiet, then angry, then pleading. He said I was overreacting, that I was punishing him through his son. "That family doesn't do this to family." I let him finish. "I didn't do this to you," I said. "I stopped protecting you." There was a long silence. Then his voice changed, smaller, edged with something like fear. "You can't do this." I already did. My nephew tried next, a text, then a call. Apologies layered with confusion. He said he was drunk. He said he was trying to impress his dad. He said he didn't think it would go this far. I know, I said, when I finally spoke to him. That's the problem. He didn't lose everything. That's important. His life didn't implode in a cinematic way. What happened was quieter and harder. Opportunities dried up. Support became conditional. The safety net he'd never noticed because it was always there suddenly had holes. My brother stopped coming to family gatherings. When he did show up, he was subdued, watchful. The dynamic had shifted, not because I asserted dominance, but because I stopped pretending we were equals in trust. I grieved more than I expected. Not for the cake. For the version of family I'd been maintaining almost alone. For the belief that generosity would eventually be understood as love, not leverage. On my next birthday, I didn't host anything. I went away for the weekend. Quiet hotel. Early mornings. No cake. I don't regret what I did. But I don't celebrate it either. Loyalty, I've learned, isn't proven by what you'll tolerate. It's proven by what you refuse to normalize. The pool has been cleaned. The water is clear again. Some things don't float back.